From the Accra Tourist Information Center, hello there and welcome to the Business Weekly Show on Citi TV. My name is Michael Lobodu. Please follow me on Twitter at mobodu. But are you ready for 1 hour of business news delivered to you with some fun and excitement? Are you ready? Let's go. We start off with power outages today. If you are yet to experience your share of the blackouts here in Accra, then brace yourself up because your area might be next in a couple of days. The ECG says it is in the final phase of the load shedding exercise. I don't think you'd have to worry much because at least the rains have cooled temperatures a bit. Check out the list and see when your lights might go off. Sorry if you're a victim.
The last phase of the repair and upgrade works, which begins on Monday, June 28, 2021, will see an upgrade of the Volta Achimota Malam transmission lines. The exercise will cause an interruption in power supply to some 71 communities within Accra. The 71 communities have been put into 6 groups and each will be without power from 6 p.m. to midnight once a week within the 22-day period between June 28 to July 19, 2021. The communities include Ajiringano, American House, Golf House, Lister Hotel, Lister Hospital, Labadi, Okwegono, Trasako Estates, Straha, Grida Estates, Regimanol Estates, and some 62 others. Addressing a press conference earlier today, Managing Director of ECG, Mr. Kwame Ajimambudu, appealed to the public to bear with the power distribution company as it worked in the best interest of its customers.
As we speak right now, we have plans to start outages so that Brico can continue the upgrading and also the double circuit line from Volta substation Tema to Achimota. We want to notify the public that there will be some outages starting each day 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. and we'll do our best to minimize the outages, but we want them to be informed that they should expect some outages during that period, that we'll be able to group the communities into 6: Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, Group E, Group F. And each group will go from A to D, they will go off 4 times. And then E and F will go off 3 times each. We do, like I said, we do our maximum best to avoid any outages, but we just want them to be, know that there will be some outages.
The Director of Operations for ECG, George Home, said even though the power distributor would hope to keep to the announced schedule, other exigencies may require that supply would be interrupted at odd times.
Apart from this load management that we are undertaking, there can be other occurrences. For example, if you have a fault in the network, the protection devices in the network will automatically put the network off. And then we will have to go in and resolve the fault before we can restore supply. So whenever we have a fault in any area, apart from this plan, customers may experience outage.
But this is worrying. While we are still dealing with power issues in the country, we now have to pay almost $200 million for a power purchase agreement that was cancelled. Seriously, power we didn't benefit from and money we don't even have? Can you imagine? The government and the minority in parliament have been at each other on the issue. Here's what they had to say.
The Attorney General, Godfred Dame, has stated that processes are underway to thoroughly probe circumstances that led to Ghana being slapped with a $170 million judgment debt after the cancellation of a power purchase agreement with Ghana Power Generation Company, GPGC. A commercial court in London earlier this month rejected an appeal from government against the debt. Speaking on the point of view, Mr. Dami said he is duty-bound to ensure that the case is investigated and persons found culpable duly prosecuted.
Well, I think first of all, the determination by the committee that only an amount of 18 million would be payable in the event of termination was palpably erroneous on the face of it, because that determination was perhaps without regard to the consequences for termination set out in the agreement. That's why I will take you back to the agreement itself. So apart from the decision to enter into the agreement, the consequences for termination set out in the agreement that was signed by Dr. Akufo-Addo itself expose the nation to financial loss, irrespective of when the agreement was terminated. Because in the agreement, as I indicated earlier on, whether you terminated even before conditions precedent had been satisfied, which was the case here, the state will be exposed to payment of all sums that ordinarily the state would have paid under the agreement, plus other costs and expenses. And that was what we witnessed. Now, to suggest that the cost of redemption of the situation was more expensive. It's also, with all respect,
based on what the committee said.
No, but
because the committee is telling us that it will pay.
No, hold on.
Yeah.
I think the committee is important to take account of the fact that this termination was in the context of the termination of some PPAs which are not necessary at all. And indeed, if you take account of the global picture, the termination of this together with other PPAs, I think resulted in state paying an amount of about maybe $500 million or so. And that's measured against the cumulative figure of $17 billion that the state was going to suffer if the agreements had been allowed to run. All the agreements, not this. And this is not a matter of being minded. I will be enjoined by duty to prosecute.
Meanwhile, a former power minister, Dr. Akufo-Addo, has called the bluff of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfrey-Dame, with regards to a probe into the $170 million judgment debt awarded the Ghana Power Generation Company for wrongful termination of a power purchasing agreement. Addressing the press in Parliament, Dr. Akufo-Addo said the GPGC power purchasing agreement was the best out of the lot signed under his watch to end the era of erratic power supply.
You were all here with the Ameri. They raided our homes at dawn. It amounted to nothing. I act in the best national interest. If anybody disagrees, he has the right to investigate. But you don't sit on national radio as the Attorney General, the #1 lawyer of the nation, and try to intimidate people like me. We are not intimidated. They should explain why they terminated the contract, and not just the termination. You see, every contract has termination clauses. Did we go by the termination clauses contained in the contract? The panel says no. I'm not the one saying. The arbitration panel says no. And this position has been upheld by the court in London. So we even went about the termination wrong, assuming without admitting that there was a basis for the termination. Read the report of the arbitration panel. Read paragraphs 479 and then paragraph 490. Dr. Hinkra, whose report was allegedly the basis for termination, could not defend the report. Parliament and stated that for 4 years we paid about $900 million for excess capacity, what he defined as excess capacity. If you divide the amount paid over 4 years that he covered, each year was about $234 million if you divide it by 4. ECG, the custodian of all the contracts, stated to the Parliamentary Committee on Mines and Energy that the reserve margin or the spending margin in the trade comes to about $200 million a year. The reserve margin is like reserve players in a team.
We stay in the energy sector because the National Petroleum Authority has a new boss. The former NPA boss decided to go to Parliament. I guess he finds making laws more interesting than regulating the country's petroleum sector. Anyways, the new boss was a former information minister before moving to the Zongo ministry. He was also very busy during the 2020 elections for the NPP. I'm sure you figured out already who this is.
Dr. Mustapha Abdul Hamid takes over from Hassan Tampoli, who is now MP for Gushegu and Deputy Transport Minister Designate. Mr. Tampoli was appointed as the acting and later substantive head of the National Petroleum Authority in 2017. The appointment of Dr. Abdul Hamid takes effect on 1st July 2021. A letter from the President to Dr. Hamid dated 17th June says the appointment has come at a time when the petroleum sector is faced with challenges following the outbreak of the coronavirus. The management and staff of the National Petroleum Authority have meanwhile welcomed the appointment of Dr. Mustapha Abdul Hamid. A journalist, academic and a politician, Dr. Abdul Hamid holds an MPhil and PhD in religious studies from the University of Cape Coast. He also taught as a lecturer in the Department of Religion and Human Values at the same university. Dr. Abdul Hamid was the national youth organizer of the New Patriotic Party, NPP, between 2003 to 2005. He also served as the Deputy National Campaign Manager for President Akufo-Addo's successful second-term bid in 2020 and was in charge of campaign communications. Meanwhile, the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security, IES, Nana Amoisi VII, has urged the newly appointed Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, Dr. Mustapha Abdul Hamid, to prioritize resolving issues pertaining to fuel smuggling, cylinder recirculation, and the continuous rise in fuel prices at the pumps. Speaking to Citi Business News on the new appointments, Nana Amoisi VII enumerated some key issues the new CEO needs to prioritize at the start of his tenure.
Over the last few years, we've had incidents of fuel smuggling. And so as a supervisor and a monitor of the petroleum subsector downstream, NPA has a lot of work to do in blocking these leakages and ensuring that there's fair playgrounds for all fuel importers and marketers. That is the only way we can say that they are doing a good work. The next thing we have also found is that the cylinder recirculation model they attempted, and I'm sure it's still on the table, to implement, have not seen the day of light after 4 years. And there's been a lot of challenges with that idea. We would rather expect that they should pull it off the table because it is deterring investment. The next has been the consistent, persistent increase in the price of fuels. And it's also, we found that one contributing factor had been the levies and margins as, supervised by the NPA is becoming too much. On a liter of fuel, margins and taxes and levies makes up almost 40% of the price of petrol, diesel, and the others. They want to look at it once again.
Away from that, aren't we really in interesting times? First came COVID-19 that disrupted our lives. The news of a vaccine and we could breathe a little. Now, although we can't afford enough of the COVID vaccines for everyone in the country, getting some to buy is another issue. At this point, producing the vaccines locally looks like the only way out. That's why it's great to hear the World Bank is keen on supporting us on that agenda.
Talks of the country producing its own COVID-19 vaccines have deepened in the past few months following a shortage in the second batch of vaccines procured. Already, the government has established a committee to formulate a concrete plan for vaccine development and manufacturing in Ghana. At a media engagement, the country director of the World Bank for Ghana, Pierre Laporte, says the World Bank has pledged its support for Ghana's production of vaccines locally.
Does the World Bank support the idea of having vaccines? Absolutely. And the branch of the World Bank that deals with private sector, the IFC, they've already indicated their willingness to support the process in whatever country this happens. And if Ghana has a good proposition, I am sure IFC will support it. But in this project, we do not deal with that. We only deal with the procurement and distribution of vaccine. The World Bank has not funded any vaccine up to now. So whatever vaccines have been given to the people of Ghana have been either through resources of government of Ghana or other platforms like COVAX who have given. We have not yet given any vaccine to Ghana. It will happen very shortly once our once the financing agreement is signed and the funds are available.
Speaking on whether the World Bank could have prevented the shortage with its swifter intervention, Mr. Laporte said the bank came in as soon as it could to help.
Excess vaccines. What I can tell you is, first, I believe the World Bank has moved as fast. The World Bank was really the institution that moves fastest and quickest. IMF also early on with the largest volume. Now, could we have done something quicker? I'm not sure. I'm not sure only because vaccine is a complicated matter. Actually, the case of Ghana, when we approved the $130 million, it took us a lot of discussions internally. Should we wait and add vaccines? Because at the time, the bank had just agreed internally, approved the program to fund vaccines. But we did not have the guidelines, the written processes internally wasn't there. So we had to take a decision. Do we wait to give the 130 million once the World Bank team have finished writing all the procedures, etc., which would have taken us early in this year. But at the time we realized the resources had finished, we had to save lives. So we agreed to provide the second financing without procuring vaccines.
Imagine we can pull this off and become the vaccine hub for the sub-region. That can literally save our economy. Now to tourism. Have you ever taken a ride on one of these double-decker buses, popularly called Auntie Dede? The Tourism Authority is planning so you can tour Accra on one of these. You'll be fascinated with the things you will discover.
The tourism industry has been one of the worst hit since the outbreak of the pandemic. Many businesses in the sector have closed down while others downsized. Despite the reopening of the country's airports, which allows the entry of international tourists who are the main clients of tourist sites, the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination is yet to allow the sector to fully recover from the pandemic. As a consequence, the Tourism Authority has launched a domestic tourism campaign to whip up local interest. The Acting Director of Public Affairs at the authority, Nelson Jones, called on the public to patronize local tourist sites, adding that it would help sustain the industry.
I wish to encourage all and sundry that now the pandemic is lingering and domestic tourism is the way forward. So they should all patronize domestic tourism, especially one of the ways is the Citi tour bus that we've brought on board, and amidst the bone shaker. They should all patronize it and not forgetting adhering strictly to the COVID-19 protocols. And then also, once they do that, there's going to be social cohesion, the economy is going to be enriched, like I said.
Mariam Yakubu is a tour guide on one of such trips, and she provides the details on the ride.
Today routes we started from the Accra Information Center, and then we did the Oxford Street, Osu, and then we ended up at the Black Star Square. We did a little at Black Star Square, and then we used the Atamin Street to Old Accra. So we passed by in front of the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park.
Some patrons of the trip share their experience on the tour.
The experience has been an interesting one. It's been very educational and it's been fun. I must say that even being a Ga myself, I have come to appreciate my culture more. I've come to learn about some of the very influential people who have aided in bringing the community together.
Obviously seeing the bigger landmarks are pretty epic, especially when you do it in a car. It's not the same as when you're up in the open air doing it on the bus. So that's been great. Going through the square, seeing the market, going into Osu from up here, amazing.
I think there's so much more to see than the big sites. That there's a lot of smaller things here that have historical value and importance that this tour really helps exploit those things.
The Ghana Tourism Authority says from its website you can book a ride in one of these buses to tour the capital like you never have before. Reporting for Citi Business News, my name is Michael Obedu.
It's Ghana, where Ghana, share Ghana, and serious Ghana, and still Ghana.
Citi TV is live. On DSTV, go to channel 363. On GoTV, access Citi TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Citi TV on your television. Citi TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and Star Times box. Citi TV, it's your world.
From touring the capital, when was the last time you went to the cinema to see a movie? The answer is obvious. It's been over a year for cinema lovers. But the good thing is, cinemas are now open, but of course, under strict enforcement of the COVID-19 protocols. Charlie, I'm wondering, how have staff of such companies been coping for all this while?
When the novel coronavirus pandemic struck the world in the latter part of 2020, it grounded many businesses globally and forced others to run at half capacity, with millions of people rendered jobless. The devastation was across boundaries as almost every sector of the global economy took a hit. One sector that bore the brunt was the global film industry. Film production was halted and cinemas and theaters were closed. Ghana, just like other countries, banned all public gatherings, including visits to cinemas, as part of measures to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus in the country. However, following calls by various industry stakeholders, government lifted the restrictions on cinemas earlier this month. As a result, Silverbird Ghana resumed operations on Saturday, 19th June 2021. Business manager of Silverbird Ghana, Nanaya Ochumberima Yeboah, has been speaking to Citi Business News on the measures they have put in place to enforce the COVID-19 protocols and ensure the safety of patrons and movie lovers.
As you know, it's been a very long wait, 16 months, I think. So we had the clearance just a couple of days ago to start business. But a lot of things have changed. It's not business as usual again. Coming from the background of the COVID and the impact on the world and on our industry. So there are lots of protocols that we need to adhere to. They are distancing in the cinema halls, so people are not sitting together again. You need to wash your hands, sanitize, take your temperatures, take personal details of every patron that enter our premises so we can contact trace them in case they have any complications in the future. There are sanitizers almost everywhere. We provide free nose mask when you don't have any. So yes, a lot of changes. Now you cannot even eat popcorn and drinks in a cinema hall. That's having a bit of a toll on the attendance, but hopefully people would come to understand that it's for their own safety, and we can go back to our normal life eventually when some of these restrictions are lifted.
He also highlighted measures the management of Silverbird was putting in place to bounce back.
If you have been following us on social media, you realize we are coming with a big bang. There are a lot of campaigns going on for the reopening of the cinemas. We need to sensitize people so they know they are still safe when they come to the cinemas. The reason cinemas have not been opened and everywhere else have been opened is because of these scare or complications of sitting in a place like a cinema.
There is certainly a lot of excitement that comes with the reopening of the cinemas. But what does this mean for the general public?
It feels good to be back. Like, we missed the whole cinema time with your friends and all that. So it feels good to be back.
Once all COVID protocols are in place and people are supposed to observe it, I think it's okay to want to come out with friends and family to watch a movie.
Even though patrons are excited at the reopening of the cinemas, they are yet to fill the venues. Despite this, Nanaya Ochumberima Yeboah is positive business will pick up in the next few weeks.
It's not as we anticipated. People have their own reasons for staying away from the cinema hall now. But like I said, 60 months is a long time for people to adjust to. So it would take some while for them to accept to come to the cinema hall and enjoy these movies.
We turn our attention now to banking. When was the last time you looked at your bank statement? I'm sure you saw a long list of charges in there that got you asking yourself a lot of questions. I've always wondered why there were so many charges. I saw someone post on Teledas, a Facebook page, that one of the banks ended up taking all the little money he had tried to save due to all these charges. See why I prefer to use Momo every now and then? Like, how can you bill me for over-the-counter withdrawals for coming for my own money? Like, how? The Bank of Ghana made a big move on some of these charges and directed that they be scrapped. Fortunately, the Bankers Association of Ghana is not opposing this.
The fees, charges and practices identified by the central bank as unfair include credit insurance premium overcharges, maintenance fees on savings accounts, among others, over-the-counter withdrawal charges. The central bank also spoke against the requirement by some banks for borrowers to make them part owners in some assets they present for use as collateral for loans. Banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions have further been asked to desist from the application of interest on penal charges. Speaking to Citi Business News on the development, the CEO of the Ghana Association of Bankers, John Iwa, welcomed the directive but raised concerns over some of the fees and charges that have been cancelled by the central bank.
As banks support largely, wouldn't say everything there, we agree entirely with everything there, but largely we support the fact that we need to treat the customer fairly. On the savings account, for instance, I think the directive is the abolishment of the maintenance charge on savings accounts, which I would say substantially we agree. Savings accounts are savings accounts, as the name connotes, that they are supposed to be earning interest and they are supposed to be accumulating wealth over time. And if there is occasional charge every now and then you find that the value of the investment will be dwindling. But unfortunately, in our part of the world, customers have tended to use savings account as though it's their checking account or their current account. Savings accounts are not accounts you go in every day to make withdrawals. ATM cards have been issued on savings accounts. People are doing Momo linked to their savings account. So then it loses the character of a savings account. For which reason the banks are saying where customers use an account, it's an account that is designated as an investment account, as in the character or form of a current account, banks should be allowed to levy whatever penalty or whatever charge or commission that those services are supposed to attract.
But what do consumers of financial institutions make of the developments? I spoke to some.
Well, I think it's a great initiative because these banks make a lot of unnecessary charges. Sometimes you don't really know what the charges is for, and then you see a message in notifying that a charge has been made. And sometimes even the person's account doesn't have much money inside because the economy isn't good. So the person tends not to save a lot, and then the person is yet being charged for all these unnecessary charges. So I think it's a good idea, and we give a thumbs up to Bank of Ghana for that.
I think it's a move in the right direction because sometimes within the month you are not even making some transactions and automatically they take that charge from you. So I think if they are taking it off, it's a right decision by the government, Bank of Ghana.
I think this is going a long way to help us, those who are saving there, to at least not spend so much money on charges, because looking at the charges is sometimes outrageous, because you want to deposit or you want to cash out money and you realize that almost some percentage of your money is gone. So I think this is a very good news to we the consumer.
Still in the banking sector, Charlie, the Bank of Ghana has asked Parliament to back off. Well, they didn't say literally. You know, there was this petition by some of the owners of some defunct banks following the banking sector cleanup for Parliament to probe the collapse of their banks. But the Bank of Ghana says Parliament should cool down and allow the legal process currently ongoing over the issue. Obia Onumasta.
With regards to the banking sector cleanup and persons that have been affected by the process, there are already a number of actions filed in courts and as arbitration by the same persons who have petitioned Parliament for redress. The Bank of Ghana has therefore urged Parliament to allow the pending legal processes to run its course. In September 2018, the 7th Parliament undertook a formal inquiry into the financial sector cleanup, the factors that led to it, and the manner in which it was carried out. Among other things, the Finance Committee of Parliament invited all the key actors, such as the Ministry of Finance, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, the shareholders of the defunct institutions, the receivers, among others, to appear before it and to answer specific questions aimed at assisting the committee. The Bank of Ghana cooperated fully with the committee and provided all the necessary information to assist. According to the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, however, the committee is yet to make available its report following the inquiry. Speaking at the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry CEO Business Forum, Dr. Addison asked Ghanaians and Parliament to take a serious view of the 19 billion Ghana cedis used to pay depositors of the many defunct banks and SDIs.
We understand Parliament's continued interest in the clean-up exercise, especially given the public funds that were used to settle depositor claims in order to promote the stability of our financial system. While the legal processes in court and at arbitration run their course, we would respectfully ask Parliament and indeed all Ghanaians to take a serious view of the 19 billion cedis Ghana government had paid to provide the taxpayers' money to settle claims of depositors, following the mismanagement and siphoning out of several billions of Ghanaian cedis from the defunct banking institutions and SDIs by their shareholders. We all need to lend support to the receivers to retrieve these amounts of money and reallocate them to productive uses to build our economy forward, particularly in the post-pandemic period.
Meanwhile, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Clement Osei Amoako, said his office will work to help businesses operate in a sustainable and resilient manner following the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
What the Chamber has realized, and from our research department, is that a lot of businesses are unfolding, and came to the fact that some of them have not put in some measures that are too resilient to support their businesses going forward. And so what we are doing this time, having identified their problem, is to hold their hands and support them to get out of that. Some too have managerial deficiency, also being the reason for their business not doing well. So we are also building their capacity alongside, also to prepare them.
Now to the Citi Business Festival. How has your experience been so far? I'm sure you're learning a lot already. You know, as a country that hosts the African Continental Free Trade Area after Secretariat, we obviously couldn't have left out exploring how businesses in the country can take advantage of the agreement to expand. Here are highlights from the week.
The African Continental Free Trade Area AfTA presents a massive opportunity for Ghanaian businesses to take advantage of the huge African market. However, taking advantage of the opportunity is not straightforward. Ghanaian businesses need to become more competitive in different ways to enable them not only take advantage of the new opportunity the area presents, but also consolidate their place in the domestic Ghanaian market. The fourth week of the Citi Business Festival seeks to examine the export readiness of Ghanaian businesses in the context of the AfTA opportunity. Speaking on the topic, Making Your Business Export Ready on Monday's on-air series, the CEO of Women's DNA Fund and Foundation, Dr. Amanobia Boateng, noted that not only must business owners formalize their operations, but they must also acquaint themselves with the commercial activities in the huge African market in order to get export ready.
From the foundation, SMEs need to be formalized. You know, a lot of SMEs are in the informal sector. And if this is an area in which you want to participate, you need to be formalized. You need to be registered with the right authorities. You need to have your systems, your accounts, your record keeping need to be done properly, need to be up to date. And so all of that needs to be in place. And then you need to inform yourself. You need to inform yourself. If you want to export, if it's the African Free Trade Agreement that you want to be part of, go and find out about it. Go to the relevant parties. You can go to GEPA. You can go to the Secretariat, which is in Ghana here. Get all that information. But in general, if you want to participate in external markets, find out about those markets, because as much as they might be in Africa, there'll be differences. They may have similar products. What are your competitors in those countries doing that you need to be mindful of? What is the culture? What is the language? The potential target market over there, what are their preferences? Maybe your product will sell there, but you may need to tweak it somehow. What are the regulations? Do you need to change your labeling? It might be something small, but you need to be aware of it in order to be able to do it.
Dr. Boateng further highlighted the need for Ghanaian businesses to channel more energy into collaborating with foreign businesses rather than trying to beat competition.
Collaboration can actually make you more successful. So small businesses, you may not be able to take on the opposition, if I can use that word. You may not be able to take the opposition effectively. But if you come together with others in your sector, others that are doing similar things, then you can share resources. You can share resources that will help to make your pricing, your input pricing cheaper. You can also come together to buy and take advantage of economies of scale that way, so that all in all, your pricing structure becomes more efficient and you're able to offer your goods, your services for a better price. And in that way, you're able to become more competitive.
With 37 African countries ratifying the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, the stage appears to be set for convenient and affordable intra-African trade. That also means that local businesses in Ghana require support to take the early movers advantage of the trade area. Speaking on the Citi Business Festival's TV forum on trade, export, and the African Continental Free Trade Area, managing partner with international advisory firm Confidant, Michael Koto, charged banks in Ghana to lead the fort in ensuring that Ghanaian businesses take the lead in exploring the African Continental Free Trade Area.
For banks, AfTA is probably the single biggest opportunity the financial sector in Africa will ever have. So it's absolutely crucial that the banks and the financial services industry in Africa takes the lead. I would say they take the lead. They don't wait for the businesses to build their capability to export before they come in and support. They should take the lead. Banks should begin to profile potential AfTA champions, potential AfTA SME champions, and begin to look at companies that they can go after and support. It's not just the businesses coming to them.
Director of Markets at Absa Bank, Ghana and Nigeria, Kobla Nyalete, noted that Ghanaian banks have noticed the potentials presented under the AfTA agreement and are strategizing to support local businesses to explore the space.
So at Absa we have an AfTA strategy. And indeed, not only an AfTA strategy in Ghana, AfTA strategy across the 11-12 markets that we play in, and also across about 5 other what we call non-present countries that we are able to take our clients, into, and therefore, we do have that, and indeed, here, the beauty of it is that we are then able, for example, to lead a Ghanaian, business who want to do business in Kenya, because we are actually on the ground, present really in Kenya. For example, payment, all right? How our business is able to pay, seamlessly. I think the Ghanaian payment ecosystem has developed quite almost like ahead of a couple of the markets, and we are looking to take learnings from Ghana, for example, into those other those other markets.
Chairperson of the agribusiness sector of AGI and CEO of Africa Brand Warriors, Fatima Ali Mohammed, on her side called for earnest collaboration amongst all stakeholders.
We've got to put away
all these hats that we're sitting with as individual associations, organizations, or, the banking sector, whatever, we need to come in. And that's why, if you remember at the start, I talked about collaboration. Collaboration is key, whether as associations, whether as nations, whether as political leaders. And Mike literally put that in the right perspective, the will, and the drive to do this.
The Citi Business Festival is powered by Citi FM, Citi TV, and CitiBusinessNews.com, and proudly sponsored by Absa Bank with support from IT Consortium and GIPC.
So there you have it from the Citi Business Festival. But there is more. Here are stories of local businesses who are positioning themselves to take full advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Area after agreement. With all the trade barriers now removed, the goal for a lot of businesses is how to extend their reach to every corner of the continent.
In the recent past, Ghanaian businesses are doing their best to ensure they change the narrative of businesses remaining small and collapsing after just 5 years of operations. Now more than ever, they have the opportunity to scale up and take full advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which eliminates import duties and has an estimated potential of boosting intra-African trade by 52.3%. Robin Hebraz is the co-founder of Kenyo with brands such as Yaka and Respect. They produce gourmet and superfoods, including honey, fruit spreads, chili pepper, moringa, among others. These products are all locally produced and packaged. After 1.5 years of operations, they have 23 employees and source their raw materials from 30 farmers across the country. Although his company prides itself with best industry practices, it is committed to doing more in this regard. Robin tells me what he thinks various companies should do to take advantage of AFTA.
What we put in place in order to scale up would be to be in contact with different distributors around the sub-region. But once more, it's a bit complicated because, people tend not to trust their neighbor and trust their brothers. But we are definitely changing it. That's why we really wanted to work on the packaging and work on the fact that we can be trustable in terms of quality, in terms of constant, to have a quality that is always constant, our farmers that are always delivering the best quality they can. And because we are fighting against some, bad reputation, I would say. People tend to not believe in African quality, which is a big issue. I think today, if we want to develop our continent, we have to trust ourselves.
Kingsley Edu-Ochre is an investment analyst. Having invested in many companies across Africa over the past 11 years, he outlines what he thinks government should do to help Ghanaian businesses benefit from AFTA.
Access to finance is a key thing. And I think for that, yes, there are currently some providers on the space, but then with AFTA, we can now tap into a broad stream. Something like ABC Fund going, doing Pan-African is a good opportunity that is already helping businesses. So there should be more of such funds, broad level funds that should serve the needs of business. The second one, again, back to my point, is around streamlining certification processes. Because for you to tap into a market, sometimes there are some products or some standards you have to meet. And the standards can only be confirmed when you have it being backed by a certified, by you going through that whole process. Right? Again, if we have businesses that are facing this challenge, then it's going to be tough. So we need the government to also come in and streamline the process such that if I apply to serve a particular market, I should be able to get it done within the shortest possible time.
Anthony Jamefe is the founder and CEO of Caveman Watches. Having been in the watch industry for the past 7 years and owning his own company for the past 2 years, he shares with us what he has done as a business to be successful and encourages others to do same in the wake of AFTA.
The issue of packaging, what I have observed is that for us, the priority for us is to build a brand, not initially to chase money, let me put it that way. So it becomes difficult for most companies when they are not focused on building a brand. they don't want to put in more resources in terms of packaging. But we have significantly sacrificed revenue to enhance our packaging. So we invest a lot into the packaging. We know the standard that we are trying to achieve. It's a global standard. The watch market globally is a very complex one, so we have to make all these sacrifices and spend more on packaging, which I would urge most Ghanaian factories to do.
Let's now hear from the CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and what he believes businesses must do to fully benefit from AFTA.
SMEs can participate by being part of a value chain. Okay. So if you structure it very well, then a small business somewhere that is providing, let's say, a shoe, can be part of a larger business within Africa and be able to also be export. So we are creating a platform for our SMEs. The situation where we have limited our SMEs now will be a thing of the past because they will be part of a value chain. So it's a Ghanaian company here, it's even producing a leather, can be part or can supply a leather to a company in Kenya who is producing shoe. So that is the context that I want us to look at this after.
From the AFCFTA to the West African sub-region. The first time I heard about the eco currency, I was probably in primary school. But many years down the lane, ECOWAS is still yet to begin using the common currency. They have proposed a new date to commence its usage. Our next video has the details.
After several postponements, West Africa's 15-nation bloc ECOWAS has once again postponed the implementation of its long-time dream of a single currency. The bloc announced 2027 as the new date to launch its single currency, the ECO. The ECO was first planned to be introduced in 2003, but this was postponed several times to 2005, 2010, 2014, and 2021. For decades, the bloc had hoped that the idea of a common currency would boost cross-border trade and economic development. Addressing the press following the 59th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS, Jean-Claude Cassibrou, President of the ECOWAS Commission, attributed the recent postponement to the coronavirus pandemic.
In terms of the single currency, a new roadmap and a new convergence pact, and the convergence pact that will cover the period 22-26, and the 27 being the launching of the ECO. So that's also a very big decision because you recall, due to the COVID, the shock given by COVID, the head of state had decided to suspend the implementation of the convergence pact in 2020 and 2021. So now, they also decided that the ministerial committee should look at a new roadmap, a new convergence pact, to take into account the lesson that have been taken in that we could take from the previous pact. So I think this is now something that has been done. The ministerial committee has presented the result, the new roadmap, and the new convergence pact that was adopted by the head of state and government. There are some other issues that need to be solved, but I think this is a key achievement for the single currency.
To some very positive news in our cocoa sector. Our farmers must really be working hard because they have produced more cocoa than anticipated for this year so far. It's actually the highest production for a 5-month period for the past 10 years. This has actually compelled Cocoa Board to raise additional $2 billion to buy the extra beans. Our farmers will definitely be rich.
Before the start of every crop season, the Ghana Cocoa Board typically borrows from overseas banks some amounts which are normally used to finance cocoa purchases and related operational activities in that crop season. The regulator in September last year signed an agreement for a $1.3 billion syndicated loan facility for the 2020-2021 cocoa crop season with an output target of about 900,000 metric tons of cocoa. But according to Bloomberg, production so far for the 2020-2021 season, which ends in September, has exceeded the set target, stretching the $1.3 billion syndicated loan that was raised at the beginning of the season in October last year. Farmers harvested 965,493 metric tons by June 3rd, compared with a target of 900,000 metric tons for the whole crop year that ends in September. This places Ghana easily within the reach of the 1 million ton mark, which was last attained in 2010-2011. According to the head of finance and administration at Cocoa Board, Ray Ankra, the sector regulator, which is the only buyer of cocoa beans in Ghana, has therefore had to increase the sale of bills to help refinance maturing obligations. The increased activity resulted in the regulator selling 11.7 billion Ghana cedis or $2 billion of 6-month bills between January and May, the most in the 5-month period since at least 2011. Yields on the bills are falling as traders speculate that the regulator will make more income from the bumper crop. The 1.3 billion cedi 182-day securities issued at 17.65% on May 18 are currently trading at 15.65%. The regulator is also planning to raise $1.5 billion through syndicated loans for the season that begins in October, Mr. Ankra added. Meanwhile, the price of a ton of cocoa, according to data from the Bank of Ghana, improved year-on-year between April 2020 and April 2021, but declined from $2,523 in January to $2,419 per ton in April 2021. Per data from Nasdaq, however, cocoa closed at $2,372 per ton at the end of Monday, 21st June 2021.
Things might be looking pretty good for our cocoa farmers, but a lot more still has to be done for them, especially with the lingering impacts of climate change. There has to be a sustainable approach to farming so that our farmers are protected from its harsh effects.
For decades, Ghanaian cocoa farmers have been engaging in their usual farming practices without taking cognizance of climate change. In recent times, as the effect of climate change has been very much evident in the changes in weather patterns, thereby calling for an end to the over-reliance on rain-fed agriculture, stakeholders across the world have emphasized the need for farmers to practice sustainable farming methods in order to mitigate the effects of climate change. The United Kingdom, UK, has thus been supporting some farmers in the sub-region on the need to adopt best practices. Agent Brefo Donaldson, a farmer at Kuna in the Ashanti region who has received support from the UK on climate change, has been recounting how it has helped boost his farming business. He is thus encouraging various farmers to adopt such practices to ensure sustainability.
Looking at my farm, see, the soil type here is sandy. So if I don't plant a lot of trees, all the cocoa will just will. Yeah, because sandy soil, normally you don't plant cocoa here. Even in the olden days, they don't do it. So if not because of the trees and all these stuff that I've done here, this cocoa will not even last for 4 years. You come and see the bare land. So it's the trees that, yes, of course, it's the tree that is sustaining the business. It's advisable for every farmer to plant a lot of trees. That policy, cocoa forestry initiative that it was there, you have to go back, revisit that idea and start planting a lot of trees if indeed you want to sustain this business.
Another cocoa farmer, Letitia Yankee, who is the founder for Cocoa Ma Cooperative Union, explains how engaging in climate-friendly practices has helped her and other women in their farming activities.
We are doing agroforestry or climate smart cocoa farming. When I say climate smart cocoa farming, that's where you plant the cocoa, you plant trees, and when you slash, you don't burn. You don't burn like formerly where you have to burn. But this one, you just weed and then you remove the big trees, you plant trees, you plant plantain.
They made these comments when the UK International Champion on Adaptation and Resilience for the COP26 presidency, who is also the Minister of State for Energy, Clean Growth and Climate Change, and Mary Trevilian, visited a cocoa farm at Kuna in the Ashanti region. Speaking to Citi News, Victoria Dia, West and Central Africa Director for Partnership for Forest Programs funded by the UK government, urged Government of Ghana to support farmers to grow their cocoa in a sustainable manner. She added that farmers should be provided with additional livelihood options to promote their resilience to climate change.
I would ask that government provides greater support to farmers to grow their cocoa in a sustainable manner, whilst providing additional livelihood options to these farmers in order to promote their resilience to climate change.
If you have ever experienced land guards before, you would welcome any option that keeps you away from them. I remember when my father started his building project many years ago at New Wager. The way those guys terrorized us, we probably lost count of how many of them we had to settle before we were finally able to put up something. I once heard that they now charge walling fee and painting fee. Can you just imagine? Thankfully, the Vice President believes in digitizing the land sector and is calling on everyone to support the move.
Recent episodes of land guards terrorizing landowners in certain parts of the country has necessitated the need to fast-track the process of digitalizing the sector. Speaking at the National Symposium on the Land Act 2020, Dr. Baumia said the only way Ghana can make the much-needed strides in development is when technology becomes the driving force for all sectors of the economy.
The government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is committed to change through the application of technology. Ghana can only make the much-needed strides in the development when technology becomes a driver for all sectors of the economy. Therefore, as part of the digitization agenda of government, I've established in my office a liaison unit which is fervently working to assist the Lands Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to expedite the digitization processes. I'm particularly excited that under the new Land Act, electronic conveyancing has been captured. So, which this can only be realized, however, by the establishment of a robust digitized land sector agency, and this has been incorporated in the Land Act. So, the digitization of the land agency, of the Land Commission, has now become very imperative.
The Vice President further urged all stakeholders to assist the various traditional authorities with the technical and professional know-how in order to establish their respective customary land secretariats in line with the Land Act to improve the management of their lands.
The Land Act provides that our eminent chiefs, clan and family heads, the Tindanes, who are the custodians of approximately 80% of the land area of Ghana, they are required to establish customary land secretariats to improve the management of their lands. However, our traditional authorities will require technical and professional assistance from Lands Commission, Office of the Administrator of Stool Lands, and the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority to establish these secretariats. If we just sit down and say they will be established, it will not happen. We need to assist the traditional authorities to establish these secretariats. So I trust that the Honorable Minister would give the urgent support and needed directives to the agencies to this end. Also, the participation of the private sector is essential, especially in the injection of capital and technical know-how in targeting specific key improvements in the infrastructure and operations of the Lands Commission. This participation would go a long way in improving efficiency and increasing the internally generated resources.
Well, our time is up. Thank you for tuning in to the Business Weekly show here on Citi TV, your most watched business show in the country. My name is Michael Obodu. Do follow me on Twitter at @mobodu. Catch you same time next week. Don't forget the Business Dashboard airs 10 p.m. sharp every weekday. And citybusinessnews.com is there for you for regular business news updates. Catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed, and bye-bye.